Oh, guys, good, you're here. I am so excited. Guess what? I hope this isn't about your podcast again. Why, did you finally listen to it?
Before we start this podcast, let me invite you to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, YouTube, or any podcaster. I'm such a cute. Alright, everybody, quiet on the set. The groom next door, take one. To the audience. In 3, 2, 1. Action! And he is your host, my mommy and daddy, Chris and Stella Green.
You know? Sit down.
Hello, pups and kittens, and welcome to episode 126 of The Groomer Next Door. I am your co-host, Chris Green. Sitting next to me, as always, is the fabulous Sarah.
Hello.
Well, this has been one of these episodes I have been dying to put out there for you guys. I have been just literally begging for this day to come. One of the best interviews we've had on the podcast will be on this show coming up.
It was extremely entertaining. I was hanging on to every word.
And you know, before I actually intro who it was, this person is such an influence, has influenced many generations, and you know, I was very proud to be able to talk to this person. And before I even go on any further, I have to dedicate this episode to Pat Carty. If it wasn't for him pushing on this, I would not have actually probably pursued it as hard as I did. So because of you, and I know you're listening to this episode, but because of you, this episode is actually happening. So with that said, on the show today, from the 1950s TV show Lassie, none other than Timmy himself, played by Jon Provost. What an amazing guy he is. And I look forward to discussing the interview afterwards with you and different things. I really enjoyed the show when it was on. When I was little, especially, I think we all were kids. We all, for how many generations have gone, we've all watched that show as kids.
Every generation knows.
Yeah, everybody knows. You know the theme song, you know everything.
Yep, everybody can do movie lines,
yeah, well,
show lines.
Well, what? Jimmy stuck in a well? I mean, I don't know how many times over my years growing up, every time I heard a dog bark, that was the first thing that came into mind.
Or when someone's stumbling over the words and they can't get what they want out. What? What boy?
Exactly. And so this is probably the most influential child actor who grew up to be really
so much more
and has grown up to be just an amazing individual. So you're all in for a major treat this week. With that said, let's dive into the weekly roundup.
The weekly roundup, yeehaw.
Alright, this week on our weekly roundup, let's see. I'm trying to think about the week and absolutely have nothing to really report. That we were supposed to actually go and foster one dog. That didn't happen. We were supposed to
foster another
cat
with kittens.
Right. That's something I wanted to talk about because we've talked about this kitten a couple times over the last couple weeks.
This cat was taken from the hoarding situation here in town. It was the only one that hasn't been put into a home yet or found home yet because of the fact that it's still pregnant. Bubba came from the same house. He's in the place being. We gotta find out if he's been adopted or not.
Right, that's at APA.
Yes, wonderful place.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
This one has stayed at the Raleigh Animal Shelter, and the shelter said, she's getting close to having kittens.
Right.
She really shouldn't stay here. So Pakal jumped into action, and Jewel went down and said, okay, well, if we take the cat and kittens, we'll foster until the kittens are ready to adopt, and then we'll give them back to the animal shelter. The shelter has an extreme turnover rate.
Extremely high.
A very high adoption rate there. Amazing shelter.
Right.
I mean, John and Roy and all the volunteers, they work so hard there. They are wonderful. And they have the best shot getting a home being there than with us. We are a welfare league. We're not a rescue. We're not, we don't have a big, huge facility where we can keep pups or kittens. But we have fosters that will help. And Jewel is president, and she said she will take care of the cat. And she asked me if the cat and the kittens were born before she went on vacation, if I would take them. I said, yeah, sure, not a problem. We got a beautifully large
Washroom.
Mudroom.
For people who actually do house flipping.
Regular people call it.
I don't know anything.
Kristen calls hers a mudroom.
Does she call it a mudroom? I did not know that. Okay.
But
fancy. There's no mud in my washroom.
We know that taking a cat while pregnant, especially towards the end of the pregnancy, and moving her to a different location can cause her to stress out to the point where she miscarries. We don't want that to happen. So, Mama Cat, beautiful tortie and tortoiseshell. She is gorgeous. Green eyes. I mean, she's going to be adopted within minutes once it's put up on Pet Finder.
And she's adorable. She's great.
And she's a sweetheart, too. She is still at Jewel's house. Jewel's mother-in-law is coming over every day.
I didn't actually know this, so I'm learning something as we're going.
Actually, twice a day. 2 or 3 times a day, yeah. Jewel's mother-in-law is coming over to check and see if she's had the babies yet, for one, make sure water is full, food's full, litter box is clean, because if the litter box isn't cleaned out a couple times a day, it can stress out a mama cat.
Right.
Any cat.
Yeah.
If you see your cat is peeing or pooing in places that they're not supposed to, check their litter box.
Yep.
Their litter box could be so dirty that they don't like it. I've known cats that go and use the bathroom once, use the litter box once, and then they don't use it until it's clean again.
Right.
It depends on how picky yours are.
Which is weird. I mean, they can be very picky and very demanding.
And it could be the different types of sand. I would love to have used the crystals.
Right. Rambo does not like the crystals.
Rambo does not like the crystals. So what could be super easy for us, we have to go to the clumping litter.
Yep.
We'll use the Glade Tidy Cat. Fantastic. Glade. Fantastic stuff. Rambo likes it. He doesn't fidget. Mama Kitty and Callie don't care.
No, they don't care. They can go either way. Nah. And they don't even have to have the expensive crystals.
There's a generic form.
There's a generic form, and they're fine with it.
I like the expensive $14. You get 2 pails, and that's it.
What I think is a little weird, now staying on the side of cats here, is it's really kind of bizarre. Having a calico, I would think that she would be very picky, very demanding by her nature. Mm-hmm. And she's completely chill, like whatever. Mama Kitty's the same way, but Rambo, I just don't get that. He is so picky. Has to have a snack at night when the dogs are having theirs. Has to come up for his nightly pet at exactly the same time. Never comes up throughout the day. Yeah,
Rambo is the neurotic one out of all of them.
Yeah.
Mama Kitty will sleep with us. Like, she curls up behind my knees or lays near my belly or something. Callie, she's getting better at getting picked up because you're working with her on it. She would rather just lay on you or be pet. Or
on her own time.
On her own time. Even if you come up and go, hi, she talks to you.
Yeah.
Rambo. You leave Rambo alone until he's ready to come to you.
And that's a neutered male cat.
And we hand raised him. We raised him and we fixed him up, and he's still a pain in the butt.
He really
But he does love being picked up and watching the dogs go outside.
Yes.
For their night walk. So he does enjoy that part. Anywho, off subject here.
Well, no, it's a good subject because a lot of people who do have cats, maybe they're actually experiencing odd, bizarre behaviors that they cannot relate to. Maybe we just related to a couple of them.
Maybe.
Who knows?
But, so the kitty's nice and safe. And then all the Jules animals are in proper places that they need to be with family members.
Because you don't want the dogs or other cats to stress out. Now, did she actually, because I remember it was 2 nights ago, so that would have made it Thursday, I want to say, that she started going into labor. Did she actually...
She acted like she was going into labor. She had clear liquid coming out. She was, you can see her stomach contracting.
Okay.
But then it stopped. So it might have been one of those Braxton Hicks.
That's what I was just going to say.
You know, false labor.
Yeah.
Well, she's getting close.
She's approximately 1 to 2 weeks past what her due date was projected.
Yeah, I don't think the doctor really...
Well,
it's hard. When you're using your fingers just to feel around the outside of the belly, you're not actually taking x-rays, so you can't measure how big the heads are and how long the bodies are, but... Jules says she can see 4 of them moving at once. So
well, there's definitely a pregnancy. It wasn't just organs that were moving, in a wave type manner. This was actual kicks, and it was definitely movement. But maybe it was the assumption of how far along she was incorrect. Possibly, who knows? She did find a spot though. Apparently, that our birthing spot. Because if you guys don't know, cats will find a spot that they want to have a baby. They want to have their babies. She took Jules' rug.
And yeah.
And that was her birthing spot. She chose, Mama Key chose my lap, which I don't know why. And now you can see with this cat, that whole assumption that cats have to go to a very dark place, under a house or something, it's not exactly accurate.
That's more of a wild thing.
Exactly. That's a feral thing. That would be a cat that's more of an outdoor cat.
Or a cat that doesn't have a home.
Yeah. But that's... because of course they need to find a house, they need to find shelter for the babies. So for all of you new cat owners, really at this point, if you're listening to this going, I did not know any of this, trust me, there's plenty of things that cats do that shock you. As for back at the shop, busy, yeah. Nothing really has changed. No erratic situation.
We did have a really cool dog, Olivia.
Tripod?
Yeah, she only had 3 legs.
And
I found out what happened.
Okay.
Olivia's a golden doodle, a beautiful black, stunning golden doodle. Love this little girl to death. Sweet as pie, just all around great dog. Well, come to find out, she had birth defect.
Oh, okay.
She was actually born with 4 legs, but the one leg, there was no bones or structure to it, and it only was about the quarter of a size. So it just flopped around. And so the veterinarian went ahead and did the surgery to remove it. They didn't know what to do with the dog since nobody owned it, I guess. I'm not sure how the dog got to the veterinarian, or if somebody who owned it beforehand couldn't afford the surgery. But one of our good customers went in and adopted right from the surgery room. Or right from the room from the vet.
Yeah.
The day after the surgery or something like that. She's 7 months old now, and she gets along amazingly. She's missing her front left leg.
Which is weird. That was weird to me. I'm like, I'm used to
most of the time it's her back legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she gets around like nobody's business.
She took me for a walk.
Yeah.
Boy.
Because when you see a dog taken off, it's like a horse. At some point, their front legs are both in the air. Well, she didn't have another front leg, so it's just...
What it looked like is, it looked like a kid putting her arm into the sleeve, into the shirt, but not getting it through the sleeve, so that you could just see it. And so
she has the balance.
She's got the balance, but she also actually has that movement. Mm-hmm. So the brain is actually functioning that I have to move, but there's nothing to move.
And then they found out that her front leg is also deformed. Her other front leg is deformed. Problem is that once she gets to her adult size, that wrist isn't going to hold her.
Okay, that explains the brace.
Yes, so they're using the brace now to try to prolong it as far as possible. What they're going to do is that they're going to have to take the dog up to Columbia which is the big veterinarian out there, the specialty veterinarian, the round-the-clock care veterinarian, the expensive veterinarian.
Expensive.
But what they'll do is they'll go in and they'll do a surgery on her front leg, and they'll fuse the bones together.
Okay.
So she's not going to be able to move her paw the correct way, but it's the only way to preserve her entire leg.
Right.
So right now she does have a brace that keeps her wrist and her paw stabilized. So it's a little more difficult to groom. She lays on her side, but she's so good. She understood. Olivia, lay down.
She was great in the bath.
She don't like the blow dryer.
Yeah, she was a little bit harder for the blow dryer, but
she doesn't like her head messed with, and she's a puppy.
That is vast majority of your dogs out there.
Yeah. So, with me on my portion, she didn't stand hardly for anything. The only time when she stood is when she wanted to.
I had her stand only for the back end, and that was the part where it's like, okay, I just got to get through it.
But we did a number 5 shave down. She left feeling like velvet.
Cool.
And she was just so sweet. Put it on a nice, bright, colorful bandana that fit her personality. But the family that adopted her have many golden doodles. Many of them. So she went to the proper family.
Good deal. All right, well, let's move on to GND News. So this week on GND News, I have 2 stories that actually we have a great deal of experience talking about. The first one comes from Dallas, Texas, where a dog is on the loose. Owners of the dog are neglecting, and unfortunately, the worst can happen. And the second one comes from Corona, California, where an unfortunate situation happened at a boarding facility. So, obviously with our experience and what we've seen over the last few years alone, we can cover these stories very well. So, let's go to Dallas, Texas. Claire, play that clip.
Dogs to terrorize the South Dallas neighborhood. The dogs mauled a woman last week. She died on Monday. Fox 4's Lori Brown is at Dallas City Hall. All right, Lori, so it turns out the city had nearly a dozen complaints about this dog owner before the attack, huh?
Steve, we now know there were big failures on the part of Dallas Animal Services before the attack and more failures by the Dallas Police Department after the attack.
Dallas residents have long complained about loose dogs in South Dallas. And now we've discovered residents in one neighborhood complained about a notorious owner nearly a dozen times before his dogs attacked and ultimately killed 52-year-old Army veteran Antoinette Brown. Jackie Humphrey talked to police after the attack.
By him describing it to me, it's hard to let go.
Humphrey is one of the residents on Rutledge Street who complained to Dallas Animal Services about the dangerous dogs before one of them killed her Chihuahua.
They was just in it and just slanging it.
Late Tuesday, the Dallas Police Department revealed that Animal Services seized 13 dogs from the same owner before the latest mauling. Hours later, Dallas City Manager A.C. Gonzalez put out a statement that admitted mistake number 1. We did not properly identify a pattern of behavior that was developing and would have given us an opportunity to bring DPD into the loop sooner to investigate for criminal activity. That brings us to mistake number 2. While the city allows up to 6 dogs in a home, this owner had 7 dogs that were not registered, but the city did nothing about it. City Councilman Rick Callahan says the city failed to make changes despite addressing this issue 8 months ago.
We dropped the ball, and I'm embarrassed today to be one of 15 council members and it's as much my fault as they see it. There was a disconnect.
Mistake number 3, we've now learned that DPD did not tell Animal Services about the attack for 4 days. And even though Humphrey told Animal Services she saw the attack and later spotted one of the loose dogs, Animal Services said they could not respond for 3 days.
I told him, I said, a woman just was attacked right out here.
Once police reached out to Animal Services, they captured 6 dogs the next day and a 7th dog Monday.
But Because the city has allowed the loose dog problem to get so bad, Councilman Eric Wilson believes that the city will have to start euthanizing more dogs, something he says he knows is not popular, but he believes is necessary to protect the public. Steve.
All right, Laurie Brown, Dallas City.
All right, I'm going to let you start with your opinions and your comments, and we'll go from there.
This is about the
Dallas, the dog.
Okay, sorry, I got a little lost there.
She's not paying attention.
I'm paying attention. Never mind. Anywho, I think this person should never own another dog again.
I think they should face jail time.
I believe so too. I mean, their animal killed another person, so unfortunately for that animal, the animal is being put down. There's no way around it. The other animals, it depends on what he used them for. If he used them for guard dogs, it's hard to rehabilitate those type of pups. There are rescues out there that train and they work very hard with these dogs to rehabilitate them. But where's the rescue to do that?
And how old is the dog? I mean, they don't really give a lot of.
It's unfortunate that most likely that these dogs are going to be put down. All 7 of the person's dogs are going to be put down.
I think thinking about it, I'm hoping that they'll act animal control will go out.
I'm hoping that they're not.
I'm hoping they'll at least evaluate the 6 other ones and see demeanor, and then hey, okay, this one's not bad. We can actually adopt this one out or send it to a rescue. Obviously, the one that killed, he or she, whatever it was, that's an unfortunate. And this is where it falls down on the line of bad owners.
Yep.
And one of the things that caught my attention with this is that we see this
all the time.
All the time. I mean, we have one really close to the shop. I have called,
and it's aggressive.
Yes.
It follows. It chases after cars. It bites on, tires.
Yep.
It's like when you're up in your vehicle and they're biting at your tires, you can't see your tires. At no point can you see your tires. Make sure the dog's paws not underneath it. It's not the driver's fault. It's their fault.
I don't know how many times.
It's the owner's fault.
Oh yeah, I stop the car and I yell at it, "Go home!" And it runs because it's got that timid personality. But the problem with a timid dog is a dog that's pressed up against the wall. It's going to attack in defense. That's the biggest fear I have.
And then it shows aggression towards smaller dogs and women.
Yes.
They just open their door and they just let the dogs go. And it's getting better. It's not happening as often now, but it needs to stop. I don't care if you live in the county. I don't care if you live out in the country. You are responsible over your own animals. They have to take care of it. I know there's another story too. I forgot which state it was, but a dog got loose and slaughtered 11 lambs. 11. The guy was going to make money off all those lambs. They're going to sell them for whatever reason. And that dog killed him just to kill him.
Yeah.
Dog's not going to go and kill it for food. They're not hunter-gatherer hunters. They're doing that for sport.
Yeah. Well, this particular dog actually killed a Chihuahua as well. So just the same thing. He's out there for the sport and not for the actual food. So he's out for the hunt, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. They want to have fun. They get in their eyes that they want to do this, and they're going to do it. People need to protect their property, and that means when that dog comes on that property, they're allowed to shoot him and kill him. So I don't care if you're out in the country. Keep your dang dogs on your own land.
Right. And you know what? This is where it comes down to. I mean, we've looked into law for country and county, and I mean, in the country, it is exactly like you're saying. If anything enters your property, you have the right to shoot. Now, I'm going to actually go on this side. I would not want to actually do such a thing. But now, let's just say we're in the country and our dogs are outside and I have to protect our dogs. Well, I'm going to do whatever I have to do. The same thing if Claire was outside. Yep. I'm going to do whatever I have to do. That doesn't mean I'm going to be happy about it, but...
Yeah, I'm not going to let that aggressive dog come take my little cute, sweet Chihuahua out.
Right.
Because I can actually say, my Chihuahua is actually a sweetheart. She's never She'll let anybody touch her.
Yeah.
She'll let anybody pick her up. She's that one you pick up and she just smiles.
She does. She smiles and lays back and
And
goes,
then
hi.
we have this big aggressive dog come flying at us, and this dog that is loose near us is mutt.
Yeah.
It's not anything. It's big. There's no signs of any kind of typical bully breed. There's no signs of any kind of guard dog in it.
No, and there's no sign. And one thing that really upsets me with that house is that they don't even have a sign up
Yeah, it says beware
that
dog.
says beware dog. And we have school buses that drop off in this area. That's why I had the sheriffs come out. And they weren't going to come out. But when I mentioned, hey, there's kids that get off the bus right here and this happens.
And see, and that's the problem with the story too, is that the sheriffs knew.
Yeah.
The police
Well,
department
it
knew.
wasn't sheriffs, it was actually police department.
Oh, police?
Yeah.
Okay. The police department knew.
4 days.
If I was that family who lost their loved one, I would be suing the county or the city.
Well, city council made the mistake. The police department waited
The
4
council
days.
should have had nothing to do with this.
I guess
the
they were
council-
aware of it.
Yeah, but the council has nothing to do with this. What has to do with this is the police making the reports, going out to the people's house, telling them stop it
Yeah.
before something else happened. The people should sue the city.
They should sue the city for just negligence. But
Negligence to the fullest. The guy said, oh, I'm sorry, I feel very embarrassed. I'm sorry, your embarrassment is not bringing back my family member.
yeah.
Your embarrassment is not bringing back my dog.
Sometimes, and even on the second story we're going to get to, sometimes the less you say, the better off you're going to be. Because it does typically have this negative effect where what you say, it doesn't work. It's not going to make the situation better. It actually hurts the situation.
Well, yeah, you give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened there. But it's gross. It's gross negligence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I don't know if these people face criminal charges, but my goodness, I hope they do.
well, they should, with the fact that their dog killed somebody.
I
think that story was so new that we didn't. There's no
yeah, it's
conclusion yet.
brand new. It's a couple days old, and who knows? Like always, one thing that you can always guarantee with this podcast is that I always look. If there's a follow-up, I'm the first one to drop it on the next podcast. So you'll see if there is. Any other thoughts on this particular one?
Nope.
Okay. Let's go on to Corona, California, and a boarding facility out there. Blair, play that clip.
And well, anyone who is a dog owner knows that they quickly become a part of your family. And this family says that they feel that they have had a terrible loss and they would like to see Camp Eileen, the boarding facility you see behind me, shut down. Now, the family says that they went on vacation to Mexico and they dropped off 2 of their dogs. One of their dogs was a 5-year-old Yorkshire Terrier, a little Yorkie by the name of Cash. They said shortly into their vacation, they received a phone call saying that their dog had died. Other family members who did not accompany them on that family trip, well, they say they went to the vets, and when they got to the vet, despite the fact that they say the folks here at the boarding center had said that the dog had died from some sort of heart seizure, they say when they saw the dog's carcass that it wasn't the case. They say the dog had been punctured multiple times. We were able to speak to the dog's owner this morning. Here's what she had to say.
Tons of families are in denial. I was in denial. We loved her. We trusted her. We paid for 24/7 care and responsibility. People say it was an accident. Accidents wouldn't have happened if there was an adult out there.
In the meantime, the family is looking to do a necropsy on the dog to find out the exact cause of death. They won't have those results for more than a week, but KTLA News was able to speak exclusively to the owner of Camp Eileen, Eileen Robbins, who has been the owner of that institution for more than 13 years. She, too, is heartbroken and distraught about all of this. Here's what she had to say.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's never my intent to have a dog die here. I've been here 15 years. I get it. I get the pain. But what she's doing is not helping. Anything that's not helping, it's not going to bring Cash back.
Now, the dog's owner says that since she's come forward, multiple other families have contacted her saying they too had negative experiences at Camp Eileen. The dog's owner says she's going to try to do all she can to work with county animal control officials to see if something can't be done to shut down this facility. That is the very latest in Corona at this hour. I'm Wendy Birch, and I'll send it back to you.
Okay. Boarding facility, dog ends up deceased. the real major question is what happened. And I mean, I have my own takeaway, and I'm getting my takeaway from the owner and what she said. But I want to hear your take because I know you have a different take on this, and I really like your take. So I want you to make yours before I make mine.
Well, obviously the straight out the gate, the boarding facility is in the wrong. They lied to somebody, saying that it was apparent that it was a heart attack or some kind of silent killer, when in fact there was puncture wounds and signs of attack. Everybody needs to be held accountable for the situation that happened.
Yeah.
The lie itself, I don't know if it was an actual lie or if it was everybody's nerves were so
shaken
up that they didn't know what to say.
Yeah. Well, you know, when you're in that moment, you know there's two ways to go.
But they're not veterinarians. They're not veterinarians. They shouldn't have said anything other than your dog has passed away. We're taking him to the vet right now.
Yes.
That is all that should have been said. No speculation on how it died. No speculation on who was in charge while the dog passed away. And transparency. Every place needs transparency. You need to be able to see right through everything and see exactly what they're doing and how they do things. Accidents can happen anywhere. My brother took his son to a daycare, and my nephew has a heart problem and isn't expected to live through puberty. That's how bad it is right now. They took him to the daycare, and my brother went to pick him up, and Phil had bite wounds everywhere. A little kid that was teething was sitting there biting into a baby. Okay. They didn't shut down the facility, even though he had bite wounds all over the place. Elevated his heart rate. A child that already has a heart problem. But they were upfront and honest exactly how it happened and why it happened and so forth. The people who were in charge were fired. Automatically just removed from property.
See, that's one thing
there was
I
a
wonder.
settlement. Huh?
Well, that's what I wonder about this.
Yeah,
I wonder if this was operated by this owner, or if there was actual, employees. I mean, she's been doing it for 15 years, so I'm gonna go out on a limb and say there's probably a couple employees who work there.
Yes, any boarding facility anywhere needs more than just a couple people.
Right, or at least one. Like in her case, it looks like one.
Yeah, our skeleton crew, when we have a smaller crew, we have 5 at a time, plus Keith, and then both of us.
Yep. And we don't even work kennel. We don't even work kennel. That's not even ours. But how many times do we, need it somewhere? Yep.
They normally call on me when they have an aggressive dog. So when people drop off dogs, they don't know the aggression level of that dog.
Right.
We only know what the person tells us. And there is no test, there is no anything to show us whether that dog's aggressive, unless they show it when we take the leash.
Which even at that, I mean, the chance is really very little at that time. Yeah, grabbing a leash, you get a little bit of an idea that they may be aggressive towards being near their owner, but that aggression typically comes around when they go to a kennel because of being kennel shy or kennel aggressive. There's always a change. Now, I don't think this dog had that problem.
See, in our facility, our insurance tells us that we have to be hands off to bully breeds. That's insurance for you.
Yep.
So our bullies have an indoor-outdoor run. They go outside, they can sunbathe, they come inside, they get their food, their water. There's a separation, so we can get in there, or they can get in there and clean it properly, give them nice cool water, give them their food, their treats, open it up, let them come back in, close it again, and they clean outside. They're very well taken care of, and we have several that come by.
I love the indoor-outdoor runs. I want to stay in an indoor-outdoor run.
Indoor-outdoor hotel.
will just be able to climb outside and lay down on the...
They have those at the Ramada out in Springfield.
That is true.
Anyway,
we're off topic.
I have a feeling that a dog got loose from the kennel in the run, whichever one they're in, and came running up front and grabbed that Yorkie. It was probably very traumatic for the person who had to deal with it. And you could be at the best facility possible, a dog's going to get loose, and you do everything to keep that from happening. You use leads, you use barricades, you make sure all the hinges are locked, you make sure you always have track of where every dog is and their temperament. It's a lot to control for just a couple people.
Yeah.
But it can be done. This is not an everyday occurrence.
Yeah, you don't hear of this happening.
The people who have kennels in the area that are their competition, like say they're groomers and their other boarding facility has groomers there too, they're going to use this and say, oh, you never board your dog, never board your dog. Well, folks, honestly, boarding your dog is safer than leaving it at home with 4 cups of kibble and 2 gallons of water.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, though, let's circle back to something. Let's go back to the motto of the podcast. We always have said, vet out your groomer. Find out what's same, and the same thing's going to apply here. You know, we have resources. We don't just have to, you know, talk to our neighbors anymore to say, hey, do you go to XYZ? No, we don't do that anymore. We have Google. We have social media. We have so many things. You have Yelp. You have Angie's List. You've got so many resources. Mm-hmm. You know, that's one thing. I wasn't going to go and research how much complaints or positive she's had. Because honestly, I'm not going to go board there. But that's the first thing. I'll say this on my takeaway from it. I'd love to know, you know, more on the story, but the owner, this is again what I'm saying earlier as well, sometimes less is more. You know, don't play the victim. Something happened and you're victimizing you're being a victim.
I can see where
she's
she
upset. Yes.
In her 15 years, this has never happened. Okay. Now, that is an amazing track record to have 15 years without an incident.
Right.
Yeah, people are not going to like you. There's going to be places that are going to complain.
Of course.
You can't make everybody 100% happy 100% of the time.
Right.
You can't do it. It's impossible. So when they say, oh, there's people coming forward that didn't have good experience, do you know how many people come in with their nose hiked straight up the air, thinking that they're so much better than anybody that has to deal with dogs? It's like, nuh-uh, sweetheart. Nuh-uh. I have standards that I keep your dog safe and I make your dog look good. If it wasn't for me, you would look like a terrible person with a shaggy dog.
Well, how many times, you know, and not to make this about us, but as an example, people will come in, they'll say, I need an appointment, I'm sorry, we're booked. Well, it's just a bath, brush, nails. You don't even have to worry about blow drying the dog all the way. These are the standards, these are the shortcuts that make bad places what they are. Mm-hmm. They'll take that dog in because, oh, I don't have to blow dry your dog or not even doing much.
Or the one people who decide to, oh, we'll just prep shave your dog. We won't do a pretty job, but we'll get all the hair off for you and you don't have to pay for the bath and the finish work.
Yeah, these are scams. No, they're scams.
Whoever is willing to compromise their work to please a person is not right.
Right.
And I'm not compromising myself to make somebody happy. And I'm going to do what I need to do. Now, this lady, the owner of the shop, she's hysterical.
Which she shouldn't go on camera and do something.
She shouldn't have done that until she got her composure.
Or had somebody talk for her.
Now, she has 15 years into this business, and if this is her livelihood, it's going down the drain, I would be hysterical too.
I'm not saying that she had no reason to be.
The lady does not need to go after her to shut down her kennel either.
Yeah.
Okay, things happen. It's unfortunate. And you do everything in your power to stop it from happening. But you could be... My customer was walking down the street with her dog. Her dog saw a bird, jumped off of the sidewalk and got hit by a car. The lady was, upset. She doesn't go sue that motor vehicle. That was an accident.
Or the actual company that made the car.
Yeah. Or the leash company.
Yeah.
Things happen, and it's unfortunate. And I would be mad. I would be flipping out if my dog died in a kennel. Yes.
I'd be banana sandwich crazy. But
yes. I will make sure I rate it and make sure people know. But I'm not going to go and pursue a place to get it shut down. I'll sue for damage.
Yes, damages, yes. Yeah, she's going to face that. But, I mean, shutting her down, unless, here's the thing. The only way that she would be deserved to be shut down is if she has a track record of bad practice. Then, yeah, shut her down.
Or she said, watch this, I'm going to throw a Yorkie into a huge aggressive dog kennel and let's see what happens. But honestly, I think one dog got loose as another dog was getting taken out. And there you go.
Yep.
And that's what happens. And I don't think the lady should be shut down.
Alright.
I don't think that the lady should sue her for everything she's got. She shouldn't have to end up homeless. But the kennel should have been an LLC, a limited liability company.
Yes.
So that she can never lose anything.
Yeah.
They would make a settlement payment and such. But it happens. And I would be mad. I would make sure everybody knows. I'll leave it at that. But viciously going after somebody to shut down a kennel.
Malice.
Yeah, that not only are you screwing with the person who owns the shop because you want a life for a life, basically. You want to take her life, her living away because you lost your dog. But you're also taking away those people who have those jobs. And the people that the lady employs to keep her place up and running. You're taking those jobs away too. So all because you have vendetta against the owner of the shop, you're also ending jobs for other people. All because your one dog had a horrible situation happen.
Right.
Think it through.
Yeah, you gotta think all this stuff through. Alright, well that concludes GND News for this week.
And now a moment with Claire.
This is it. This is the last game of the Rolla Optimist for your entire time. You're done with this. 2 years you've been playing here. You move up after this and fall to a whole new league. What was today's game like?
It was like that. The other team was like getting a goalie.
They're putting their players in the net to play goal, even though we're not supposed to.
Yeah. In high school, you get goalies.
Nope, next level.
Oh, next level you get goalies.
Yep,
but
in fall you'll have a goalie in fall.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the game like? What was it like to know that this was the last time you were going to be playing in this league?
It was like sad.
Right. Yeah, it was really sad.
But then I was making it sad to happy.
Yeah, you turned sad to happy. You guys were absolutely amazing out
and
there.
We got 0 to 8.
Yep, you guys scored 8. The other team didn't even score a goal. You guys you kept it in the offensive zone the entire time.
And I got 3.
Yep, you did score 3 times. And one of the times, one of the kids was playing goalie, and you just shot it right past her.
Yep.
And then there was another time.
No, it was a him, not a hood.
Well, then the second one.
It was a boy with the brown skin. He was blocking the goalie.
Kelly.
Huh?
His name is Kelly. He used to be on your team.
Yeah, Kelly. He was blocking the goalie.
Right, he was. He was doing that a lot in this game. But it was a great season, right? You enjoyed yourself?
Yeah.
Alright, that's what matters. Next season I'll come back and coach you guys again, but I will not be on the field. This is weird, guys. We coach out there, and
yeah, but you're not going to be on the field, but you're still going to watch us.
Oh yeah, I'll be on the bench coaching from the actual coaching side.
Yeah, but you're not going to be in
the game like I have been.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's one thing
field.
That's the one thing that's been weird about coaching the last 2 years is I'm out there with these guys and I'm coaching them right next to them.
But no one's going to be in. Well, some parents are going to be on the
Well, they'll be on the sidelines.
Coach.
Nope.
Some coach.
They'll be on the sidelines,
Well,
and we'll be on our side.
The coaches aren't going to be on the.
We'll be on the bench.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll be on the bench. The parents will be on the other side.
Oh.
Well, this is our last moment with Claire for this season. I'm sure we'll have you on and do something with you throughout the summer and stuff like that. But another thing I want to add is congratulations on all your hard work at school. You absolutely devoured school this year. You were on honor roll. You did everything that you could possibly.
In all 4 quarters.
Yep, in all 4 quarters. Very proud of you. You've done a great job this year. I love being your dad, and thank you for everything.
Yep. And this was a moment with Claire.
Starring Jon Provost as Timmy.
This week on the podcast, we are joined by Hollywood royalty. He played Timmy on Lassie. We are joined this week by Jon Provost. Thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Hey, thank you. It's a pleasure being your guest.
Oh, trust me, the pleasure is all mine. All right, so as I told you to start with, we're not going to actually spend a great deal of time on your days with Lassie because obviously it's been well documented over the years on the millions of questions you've been asked. So this week, we're going to ask you one question about your time on the set, and that is, very strange question, and I hope that it actually stumps you a little bit where you're like, I've never been asked this. Did Lassie have a groomer on set like an actor has a makeup artist?
Okay, good question. Rudd Weatherwax, the owner and trainer of Lassie, would not allow any makeup on the dog as far as changing the look. I mean, obviously, if Lassie, was supposed to have been hurt and they had to put, fake blood on, that was one thing. But as far as the coloring of the dog, the markings, that was all natural. And that's why Rudd, when he would breed the dogs to get the new Lassie, for one thing, they all had to be males. All the Lassies were males, but they had to have that marking. And so he would go through hundreds of puppies. He'd literally, when they would, when the birth was happening, he'd pull the puppies out and look at them. Oh, great markings! And then turn it over to see if it was a male or a female. Oh, wow. Female can't work. So no, Lassie. Never had any makeup or anything like that. Now, I must say, because Lassie was a male, one time Lassie had a problem. Collies have long hair, so the male parts didn't matter. But one time Lassie got like a skin rash and started to lose his hair between his legs. Okay? So, actually, it was Max Factor who, from Max Factor Makeup, made a hairpiece for Lassie that the dog had to wear for, a period of time until the rash went away to cover the male parts. So that was the only time that Lassie had any kind of extra makeup or anything like that.
So a prosthetic hairpiece just to cover, because I would imagine that back then.
There you go.
Any kind of a revealing of any kind of body part that could be offensive would have actually come up.
And then and the thing was that, all the Lassies were, supposed to be females. And the amazing thing is, almost every year, Lassie would have puppies in one of the episodes. And so you've got a really, well-trained male dog to, be laying down there with, a half a dozen little puppies pretending it's a female. So anyway.
That's interesting. I honestly never knew that.
Yeah.
I always thought Lassie, honestly, I thought it was a female, so that's amazing. Now let's go on, because like I said, I wasn't gonna drag you through the Lassie era, because if everybody wants to read anything, there's a million different stories out there. Now the second question I have about your time was, tell us what it was like filming during the Golden Age television. You were on CBS, which is of course iconic. What was it like to actually be part of that era of television?
Well, yeah, it's really a great question, because prior to Lassie, I had been in 10 movies and even some early live television. And this was an era when the big studios were switching over from movies to this new medium, television. And so they were going from the big screens to the little screen. And, there were only 3 networks when we started Lassie: NBC, CBS, and ABC. And so we were all flying by the seat of our pants, really. Nobody had a clue that, 50 years later, Lassie would still be on TV in over 50 countries. Much less it's all black and white. Mm-hmm. And that, people would still be watching this, this long. But, it was totally a new era. The studios were trying to figure it out. We were trying to figure it out because it was totally different than filming a movie. When we were filming Lassie, on any given day, we could be filming from 3 different scripts. For instance, if we would be on location, for 1 half-hour show, it might just take them, 2 hours to film this sequence that's going to be in that half hour. Well, we're out on location, and so they've got the crew, everybody's out there, so we've got to fill that time up, so we would film scenes from other scripts. Mm-hmm. So I never would sit down and read the script from page 1 to the end. I would just read what I had to do the next day. And so I, half the time, really didn't know what we were really doing until I watched it on TV like everybody else and put it together. So it was just a whole new ball game. And it was a great learning experience. It was a great time to be involved. And, you were also working with actors that, had only been on the big screen. And now they were, on TV, and then new people coming up, were getting into this new thing called television. And it was a great time.
And it was very bizarre. I was reading something that you guys actually signed contracts with Campbell Soup. That was your sponsor, so that's who actually controlled it, where unlike nowadays, the studio has full control of everything. And I thought that was bizarre.
Oh, yeah, no, and Campbell, but if you look at any of the old, any of the old series from that time, 90% of them only had one sponsor, and Camel Soup was our sponsor for 7 years. They actually controlled, the individual episodes. They had the rights to say, no, not the producers, not the directors, not the writers, but the sponsor. And as a matter of fact, we had every... I think, well, not every, but a lot of different ethnics on the show. And one time they wrote an episode for a black man, and we had never had a black person on the show. And it was a Roy Campanella, okay? And Campbell Soup said no. They said, we're not having a black man on the show. And the producers, well, why? Come on. And they said because they were afraid it was going to hurt their soup sales in the South. Yeah, and so they turned it down. But thank God the producers and the writers stood up and said, no, we need to do this episode. And so they finally gave in, and we did the episode with Roy Campanella. And the funny thing was, their soup sales went up.
Wow! And I'm glad that fight was made. That's awesome.
It's like the series Mad Men. I mean, that's what it was. It was just it was crazy. So, it was a really an experiment for everybody. So.
See, that's the stuff that I'm always happy to hear about, because, you've obviously experienced a great deal of change with TV and everything like that. So let's go on. So without continuing on during that area. So after Lassie, you took a few parts, and after that you went off to college. And then after college, you actually sold real estate, which is very interesting. Now,
go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I left, the last movie I did was with Kurt Russell and for Disney, called The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. It was really a funny kind of a cult film. But I just turned 18, and I had been working 15 years. And I said, time for a break.
Mm-hmm.
So I left LA, I moved up to Northern California to go to college, and I met my first wife up here, and raised my 2 children, and loved Northern California. It reminded me so much of what Southern California was like when I was a child. So long story short, I got into real estate up here. A good friend of mine from college had started a little company, and he said, I wasn't doing anything at the time, and he said, you like people, and come on, get your license. And so I joined him and did that for about 20 years, and got out of that a few years back. And in the meantime, the new Lassie series came about in 89, 90, did that for a couple of years. It was a lot of fun. Enjoyed it. One thing that was really neat about that show, that series, was the producer wanted to use people that had been associated with Lassie in the past. So Tommy Reddick, who played Jeff, he did one episode. Roddy McDowell, who was in the original movie Lassie Come Home with Elizabeth Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting story. He turned it down. He did not want to do an episode, as did Elizabeth Taylor. But he called back a few days later and talked to the producer and said, you know what? I've never played a blind man. So if you have the writers write the script while I'm a blind man, I'll do it. And they did, and he did the episode, and it was great. I'd never met him before. He was a super guy, really a lot of fun, and but I thought it was really neat that he said, "Hey, it's like I've always wanted to play the bad guy, right?" Well, Timmy's never been the bad guy. Well, I've always wanted to play that guy. I never did. Well, Roddy McDowell, he wanted to be a blind man, and he got his wish. So I thought that was great.
I would never say never, because I have a feeling that you're back on the horizon. I think you'll be making that role here very soon.
Well, who knows?
I'm a good judge of these things. I'm going to take a wild shot. I bet you it's probably right there.
Well, you never know. And it's funny. I spoke with June Lockhart recently, and she turned 90 in June and will be 91 this year. And she's still working. She's doing great. That's what actors do. You get old, you play an older part or whatever. So, and in the meantime, I've done some, little voiceover work, a few small parts in some movies, and it's just. Listen, I grew up doing it. What can I say?
Well, I've looked at your IMDb page, and in the last I'd say 6 years, you've got a couple roles that you have been part of. So you're definitely making a comeback. And look at Back to Speed. What is it? Dennis Hopkins. He played a great villain. It's. I think that you actually are suited for that kind of role. If I was directing a movie, you would definitely be cast in that. I promise you that. Let's fast forward to 94. Now, 1994, you actually received, and well-deserved, your star on the Walk of Fame. Tell us about that moment, because obviously it's got to be the most memorable moment of the Lassie career.
Oh yeah. Actually, there's too. But yeah, no, the star, that was really something. And it's funny. I'm right next to John, the musician who passed away a few years ago, John Lee Hooker, who I actually my son and I got to meet him. He was doing a concert up here a few years back, and we got to go backstage and meet him. So that was great. And then when I got my star, he was there. So I thought that was far out. But no, it was great. It was actually it was a ceremony where normally they just have one person at a time. Well, this was a reenactment, and there was about a half a dozen of us that got all of our stars on the same day, and that was really, really a trip. But and it took a long time. I think I was on the list, probably close to 10 years before it happened. And I just heard the other day that another ex-child star, Jodie Foster, just got her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Yeah, wow. Yeah, and I think her first acting role was, I think she was 6. So I beat her on that. Mine was 3.
Well, I would actually say that, Jodie Foster is a better director than actress, even though I'm not going to say she's not a good actress, but I think she's a really good director. But
no, she is. She's great.
Opinion. Hey,
and I'll never forget her role in Taxi Driver. That was pretty incredible.
Well, maybe she'll listen to this episode and she'll cast you as her next villain.
Hey,
there you go. I mean,
that sounds good.
That's how podcasts work now. This is how we're bridging actual script to director to you. All right, let's move forward. Let's go on to your book, Timmy's in the Well.
Okay.
Tell us about the book.
Timmy's in the Well. It's the Jon Provost story. It's my life from day one up until we did a reprint in softback couple years ago, about a year and a half ago, and so we added another chapter to it. So it's pretty current. It was my wife, Lori Jacobson, is an author, and she's a Hollywood historian, and has written a lot of books on Hollywood. She loves the mysteries and scandals and all that kind of fun stuff. So I told her when we met about 20 years ago, and I said, because I heard she was an author and loved Hollywood, and I said, I've always been thinking about writing my autobiography, and she just looked at me and said, yeah, well, do it, and then just dropped it right there. She didn't get it. Well, she got it because everybody wanted her to write something. So anyway, long story short, I said, well, no, you're the writer. I can and I'm dyslexic, so it doesn't work very well. So, we took about 6.5 years to put it together, and interviewed over a couple hundred people that I had worked with in the past, and other child stars and people that I grew up with, because we all belong to this club. Mm-hmm. I may not see somebody like Jay North, who was Dennis the Menace, or, Paul Peterson, or different people. May not see them, for a year, and then we see each other, and it's like, I just saw him yesterday, mm-hmm. because, we all share the same thing. So it's really about not only my career, but mainly about how my celebrity influenced a typical American family. My family, my parents were not show business people. They were anything from that. And not even from California. My father's from Alabama. My mom was from Texas. And so it was, it's kind of a neat, and it really gets into that whole thing about early television, what Hollywood was like back then. Mm-hmm. I mean, are you sitting down? I hope you are.
I am.
My mother, when we would get hundreds of fan letters a week to the studio, and Mom would answer every single. I couldn't do it because I had to learn my dialogue for the next day and do my homework and whatever. So Mom and my brother and sister, she'd make them help, would answer all the fan mail, and my mother would put our return home address.
Oh wow!
on the envelope. And she would even include our phone number and say, oh, if you're ever in town, give us a call. I mean, can you imagine doing that today? I mean, it was just a whole different time. And so, you know, that's what that is about. Yeah, it's Timmy's in the Well, and people, it's, you know, it's available on Amazon or wherever, some of the big, some of the brick and mortar stores. But or I have a website. It's just my name, jonprovost.com. People can visit that. And the other thing, we mentioned the Hollywood, the star on the Walk of Fame. Well, something else that is very, very cool. It was about 15 years ago, I got a letter from the Smithsonian Museum in Washington. And they were doing an exhibit on television in the United States.
I remember that.
And they wanted to know if I had anything to donate. And, you know, I'm looking at photos and, you know, well, this isn't what they want. So I called my mother and I said, you know, do we have anything worthy of donating to the Smithsonian? I said, yeah, this is such an honor. And she said, well, I never told you this, but I have your whole outfit, your jeans, your tennis shoes, your shirt. Because, you know, Timmy always wore the same clothes. And she said, so I've got this. And I said, oh, my God. I said, well, send it. So she sent this, and the box came, and I opened it up, and I just had this incredible, overwhelming deja vu just hit me. And I mean, I could smell it. It was crazy. And my son at the time was about 8, and I had Timmy wore high-top tennis shoes, and he wanted these high-top tennis shoes. And I said, no. I said, this is going in a museum. I said, but we'll go to the mall after, you know, when we take and mail this off, and I'll get you some tennis shoes. So we took care of that. But we were invited back to Washington for the opening of the exhibit. And when you walked into the exhibit, the first thing you saw was this incredible Lucite television. It was a Zenith where you could see all the workings of it. And then you walked into the entry, and there was, in the center, was Archie Bunker's chair. To one side was the Fonz's leather jacket, and to the other side was Timmy's outfit.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, and then, you know, you walked in and saw the whole exhibit. But that was pretty awesome. And a couple of times I've been back to the museum, and, you know, they rotate everything. But one time the curator, he said, you know, come on, let's go, and I want to get a picture taken with you in your outfit. And it was back in, you know, in the catacombs, all, you know, filed away. And they made me put on little white gloves to pick up my own clothes. It was crazy. But no, that was a super honor, for sure.
I can only imagine. I mean, I've only seen, I remember when the whole Archie Bunker and different shows being actually added to the Smithsonian. I remember reading about this, but I can only imagine, because I can only think of Night at the Museum when they actually show the catacombs of the Smithsonian. I can only imagine it probably doesn't look like the movie, but I can just imagine just walking through there knowing history is all around you, and you're able to actually see it. What an amazing moment. I can stay on this topic forever, but I want to keep going so that I don't take too much of your time. All right.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Let's move on to what you're currently working on. You're actually currently up to, and that is this August, you actually have a cruise to Alaska. Let us know about that.
Yeah. Okay, last year we had a cruise to the Caribbean, and with a bunch of fans, and it was great. And so we decided to do it again this year. And basically, you know, it's a 7-day cruise to Alaska, and we have a lot of guests that were on the cruise last year have decided to come again on this one. And my wife and I have, you know, a few different events that we put on, and she talks about, you know, her Hollywood experience and all the mysteries and scandals, and answers a lot of questions that people want to know. And and we show some videos, and I do my history and my career, and we do dinners, and we have a lot of fun. Yeah, it's really great. And so, yeah, we're going this August 26th through September the 2nd, and it's 7 nights Alaska Cruise. And if anybody's interested in checking it out, they can just go to the website connection2cruise.com, and they have all the information there. And it's looking like a lot of fun. And this, like I said, this is the second one. We've been on a lot of cruises, and we really enjoy it. So, and never been to Alaska, and everybody that I know that has said it's just absolutely incredible.
That's what I've been told too.
Yeah.
I've never been to Alaska either. I will put down in the show notes right there full details on how to get in touch with them to actually order their seats, reservations, your website. That'll all be in show notes. All right, now let's move on to the last question of this, and I'm really sad to actually be coming to a close on it. But lastly, your continued work over the years with no-kill shelters, canine companion, low-cost spay and neuter, you're well documented in that. But right now, you're actually autographing 4,000 photos. I think that was me. I don't know why my phone actually made a noise. Sorry about that. But now you're actually autographing 4,000 photos, which are being sent to canine combat teams currently serving in Iraq and Afghanistan. Let us know about that and a little bit more about that, actually.
Yeah, it's for U.S. war dogs, and it's actually for teams, canine teams, stationed really all over the world, but obviously the majority are now, in the war zones around the world, protecting our troops. The dogs are absolutely incredible, and dogs have been a part of the military for a long, long time. Unfortunately, in the past, especially in the Vietnam War, they used quite a few canines. And when we left the country, the dogs didn't fare so well. They left the dogs in Vietnam, and very, very few made it out. I actually met a vet who became a chiropractor after the war, and he was a vet. He was a veteran, but he was also a vet in Vietnam, and he actually was able to rescue a few dogs and bring them back. Well, things have changed over the years, and now a lot of servicemen are allowed to adopt their dogs after their tour. And so what we're doing is organization. It's called it's the Chapter 1 of usdogs.org, and they're sending care packages to the guys and their dogs with all kinds of treats and toys and things for the dogs and things for the handlers. But I was contacted by them, and they asked if I would donate photographs. And I said, no, to the guys. They said, yeah, they would love to get a photograph of you and Lassie signed. And I said, sure, that'd be great. And I said, well, how many? And they said, well, about 4,000. Nice. Okay. So I've got a very sore right hand, but no, I'm doing it and sending off these photos. And as a matter of fact, the first 1,000 went out and got a response from a veteran, and he said that when he got it, it just made his day. They couldn't believe it. He said, I grew up, watching Lassie. Well, obviously he was watching them, in the reruns. And he said, I watched Lassie, and, thank you. This just brought back such great memories. And as a matter of fact, he had a bomb-sniffing dog at the U.S. Embassy in Iraq. And it's just great, whatever you can do. And over the years, I've been involved with USO and doing things and support the veterans. And, and the dogs are great. So.
Have you ever made a trip over to Iraq or?
You know, when I did USO shows, I was in the late, well, see, mid-'60s, and we just did them locally here in the States. I didn't travel, but yeah, it was great. Enjoyed it.
I was over in,
and sometimes Lassie and I would go and do some things on stage, and the guys really liked that.
Oh yeah, I imagine that they would have absolutely just ate that up. I mean, that would have been the perfect time. I was in Qatar a few years ago, and I'll tell you, when you actually go out to a place like that, you really get a better understanding for everything. And what we see, when you actually see what our men and women put themselves through, or even the dogs, it just your mouth drops to the floor. You can't believe it. They're just amazing.
No, I know. I just, I have total respect, for all the men and women that are out there. I mean, boy, I sure couldn't do it.
No.
But, it's amazing, and it really is amazing what the dogs do.
Yes.
I mean, people don't really realize it's one thing that I really learned from Red Weather Wax was respect for the animals. He totally respected his dogs and treated them with respect.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously saw a lot of other trainers that did not do that, and it's amazing. It really is. So,
well, I unfortunately, I hate to say it, have no more questions. It's
okay.
I've really appreciated this time. I've been sitting here pretty much just enjoying eating this up completely. So thank you very much, Jon, for being on the podcast, and good luck to all your success. I hope that you actually get the role that you want. Hopefully this podcast will actually get that for you. And maybe, you know what, maybe Jodie Foster will end up on your cruise and you guys can talk it over then.
Hey, that sounds like a plan.
I like it. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, that was Jon Provost. Absolute wonderful interview. Did not know a lot of the different things that took place during that time. Did not know about Campbell's soup. That was an amazing story. One thing I will say about doing this interview is I did a lot of research on him, and I wanted to make sure that you guys did not actually hear stuff that you've heard over and over again, because you know what, listening to shows all over the place, I can't stand hearing the same questions asked, and he's been asked the same questions over and over. And I will go out on a limb and say I did not know Lassie was a boy. I did not know that, so that was one thing for me. And what would you actually go with?
I enjoyed the whole interview.
What stood out for you?
Everything. I mean, honestly, everything did. I was just blown away with the different stories that he had to tell, and what's nice is that he doesn't shy away from it.
Right.
A lot of child actors that you hear on interviews, they're like, "Oh yeah, I did that, but I'm doing so many other things. So let's kind of skip that, and let's go to what I'm doing now." But he embraced it. The other part that I thought was kind of entertaining was the fact that after so long, he was like, I want a break. I'm done with school. I want a break. I don't want to act for a while. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go hang out with some friends and end up in real estate. And it was kind of cool how he was like, I'm gonna take a break now. He's early 20s and he's like, I'm gonna take a break. Here I am in my 30s. I'm like, I want a break.
Well, it's funny because I'm really hoping to actually start to see him in more productions. As you heard, he wants to actually be a villain. I honestly do think there is a good role out there. I mean, I was telling you before we even did this, I was like, it's a simple script. You center the movie around him. You pretty much, you can almost kind of mirror his exact persona. He's an author, travels around the country doing book signings, and as he's doing these book signings, he's got a side of him that nobody knows of.
But you gotta be careful, because then you're entering into a secret window.
Well,
because that was also another Arthur.
Well, yeah, everything that we ever create, whether it's a movie or TV or anything, it's always going to have a sound of something else. But he just kills randomly. You can even call the character Tim, just to kind of pay homage to his earliest character. This is a movie that honestly could be made, and he'd be phenomenal in it. You look at his IMDb page. He's active. He's back in the circle. I honestly think that we're about ready to see him at a full capacity, and I'm looking forward to it.
I can't imagine somebody sitting down writing an autobiography and how long it would take, because never really thought about it. But it took a while.
It did take a while,
and that's pretty average to write a book. It takes a while to do that, and just all his experience gone through, and it's just amazing.
It really is. I mean, I could have stayed a lot longer and talked to him for a lot longer. We went longer than we were supposed to, and that's
because he is a busy man.
He's very busy, and typically when we have guests on, we talk to them about how long can you be here, and they tell us, and we're like, okay, cool. And when we end up talking and getting into this conversations that, like this one, this was a great conversation, and I could still be talking to him right now, and I would still barely be scratching the surface of who he is and what he's done with his life. Anything else you want to go with?
Oh, one thing he did say is kind of funny, how TV, all the movie stars going from movie to TV, and there's such thing as TV now, and nobody really knowing what to do, and everybody's just kind of playing it by ear. I thought that was pretty amazing, because now everything's so scripted, everything is down to a T, and everything runs smoother than usual, and everybody can go from start to finish. And another thing that was really cool is that he himself didn't know the plot to the story until he saw it himself. I'm like, whoa.
Right. Yeah, because you got exterior footage. You got to film. I mean, you got to film whenever you're there.
They film out of sequence, and yet you're supposed to keep that same emotion in both sequences, but you never started in that emotion. So how do you get in the middle of the emotion and finish it to the end if you never had the beginning?
Right. Right. I don't know how they can do it. It's like, how do you get up today and you're like, okay, I'll be doing a studio shot. I'm gonna be in an actual sound stage. And I'm going to be sad today. And tomorrow I'm going to be jubilous and just happy about everything. How?
Yeah, it was very entertaining listening to that.
And to think, and this is my takeaway was, I did not know that TV shows were operated by the sponsor. Somewhere along the lines I've heard something about this. I didn't really know the whole story, but to think that a sponsor controlled it, where nowadays the studio controls everything. I mean, look at just the other day, all the shows that were canceled. These shows are put up and they're canceled as quickly as possible, not because the sponsor doesn't like them, because they don't have any say. They buy commercial space. And then with all of those actors back then, they created TV. They created what is today. And then you look back to like the 90s. If you were a TV star, you were a second-class citizen. There was a lot of problems back then. TV was treated different. Movie stars were movie stars. You hear about this all the time.
But
now they cross over.
Yeah. Just keep an eye on him and all the stuff he's done and all the work that he has coming up. That's one thing I definitely want to make sure everybody knows, is that he's got a lot of work coming up.
He does. And that Alaskan Cruise sounds lots of fun. I don't know if I'll be able to work. I think I'm going to be joining him. Well, by that sound, I guess Claire has turned on the applause sign. That means we got to leave the stage. I'm Chris Green. Have a pet-tastic week.
And I'm Sarah Green. Make sure everybody realizes life is so short. Play with the pet.
Claire.
Have a good day with your pet. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, gotta go in my bedtime.
And now the show is over now.